But people feel this way because they feel like they're all alone on an island in their suffering because of some of the trauma that they've experienced as a child, right? And then going through that. And then there are some people who never ever told about the things that they went through as a child because of that being seen and not heard thing, and someone kind of capitalizing off of that, and making a child feel like they need to be silent. Then they grow up in this adulthood being the same way, and they go into different religious arenas and what have you, and they're told once again, even as a woman, women need to be quiet, they need to be silent, while someone's taking advantage of them. Don't talk about that. Oh my gosh, no, not here. We don't experience that kind of stuff. Not in this church, not in this place, just stop it. Like sometimes I just want to say, just stop it already, right? To people who are trying to put a muzzle on people who need to be able to express themselves. Right? And so here's the adulthood. And now we go into these other arenas where if you talk, like so many people went through being depressed or feeling like they were dealing with mental instability. And maybe it was just because there was so much trauma, or maybe it was because there was a chemical imbalance, and people make people feel so horrible when they're struggling mentally, when they don't really understand what that person is going through. When they laugh, right? So you have people who, when they see somebody struggling, oh, they're crazy, right? And that's a word I tell people, don't call people that. That's rude. It's impolite. It's even a little ignorant, to tell you the truth. Yes, I said that. It really is. And so people end up suffering in silence because they know they're going through something mentally, but they don't feel like they have a safe space to talk about it. Now, the brain is an organ, right? So we've got the brain, and we've got the liver and the kidneys and the heart and our skin and all of these organs. But anybody could talk about high blood pressure. And anybody could talk about that person has diabetes, right? And God forbid, those people who are going through those things or whatever it is, they can talk about readily and openly. But when it comes to the disease or problems with the brain, it becomes a laughing, joking matter. And so now we have people who are being silent when they feel like they're suffering mentally, or they feel like there's trauma, or they feel like they just can't take it anymore, but they don't want anyone to call them crazy, which I think is wrong anyway. And so you have a large group of people who, here's the other piece, like someone may say, oh yeah, don't talk about that, but then don't offer a means for people to find a space of community compassion or deliverance, if you want to say, because there is deliverance or healing. There's nothing available. They don't tell you, hey, it's okay to go talk to a therapist or a Christian counselor or a chaplain or somebody. Instead, they say, oh yeah, anybody who deals with that, and laugh at people who just need someone to listen to them. And believe it or not, sometimes the healing starts just from being able to talk about what you're going through. It's important. The Bible, I can't tell you the exact space right now, but it says, in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. In the multitude of counsel, there is safety. The Lord calls himself a wonderful counselor, right? The mighty God, the everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace. Why would he even call himself the Prince of Peace? Because even the Lord himself knows that there are chaotic situations that people go through. Very difficult things where he even says, think it not strange of the fiery trials that have come to try you, as if some strange thing had happened to you. He says, yeah, it's going to feel strange, but don't think it's strange that you're the only one who's going through it. You're not the only one. You're not alone. In your grief, we were even in a situation where people who needed to grieve, even the loss of their loved one, were kind of told, like, get over it. Like, let it go. You're being selfish. I was told when my mom passed away by a complete stranger, what did she say to me? It was the cuckooest thing. And I'm going to say cuckoo because she kind of said something like, your mom is gone. One person told me I was being selfish because I was grieving her loss. And another person said something like, yeah, she gone and you're going to be going there soon too. It was the dumbest thing that anyone could say to somebody when their parent just passed away. Made no sense. I forgive her though. But it was what she said that I don't know if I forgive that. But it was like, yeah, like, let people grieve when they need to grieve. Should we not allow people to have that space? I'm amazed to see that in the Bible, right? It was important for the scripture to say that Jesus wept at the death of his friend Lazarus. It didn't say he cried. It didn't say he just sat there in silence. It said he actually wept. Strong emotional tears that he expressed. And this is the King of Kings and the Lords of Lords who felt this in his humanity. So I know anything and everything that's there is for a reason and a purpose to let us know, yes, you will grieve sometimes, and it's okay. It's okay to cry sometimes. Why in the world would the Lord say weeping may endure for the night, but joy cometh in the morning? Because he knew that we would need to weep. We would need to release the tension, the increased emotion that we felt. We need to let it go and release it and give it to God. And sometimes, yes, be silent because we needed to sit and be in the presence of God and sit down before the Prince of Peace and allow him to be our source of comfort and strength. At the same time, however, I know that it's important for us to speak up, to have a safe space to do that, to have community, right? I recently, the other day, felt very strongly about this. I wrote a song called No More Silent Tears. It's actually on SoundCloud. And when the words came to me that day, the words were very profound, which, was very, very profound. And even the way I ended up singing it at a concert, a ministry service, and I put it up there. And then I just felt to put up a page about, it's called No More Silent Tears. It's on Facebook. Because I felt like people just needed a space to encourage and to be encouraged. Like, sharing your story and encouraging people, it's just, I can tell you this, like there were days when, things don't always go like 100% in our lives. I'm going to tell you that, okay? Nothing is perfect. No one is perfect but God. And so I've had my experiences, yet we strive for perfection, right? We strive for it. But we rely on God to help us to get there because his power is greater than ours. So when we do fail and we do falter, we know that we can go to God and we can ask his forgiveness and turn away from it by his grace. And in the areas where we find ourselves weak, we can pray to him and ask him for strength and believe that he will give it to us. Not just praying amiss, but praying and believing. God, today I messed up, but I believe that you will help me. I believe that your grace is sufficient. I believe that in the areas where I'm weak, that you are strong and you will build me up, Lord God. And you will help me in the areas to please you and to live according unto your will as I submit myself to you. So I put up this group because I want people to have an opportunity to encourage others and to be encouraged. Now, for me, the days when I was going through, sometimes it would just be like I would see someone else who was going through a situation. And as I began to share my story with them, began to encourage them by the grace of God, I forgot about what I was going through. I forgot about my difficult circumstance. And I left that person because they felt better, or because they smiled, or because they were thankful, or whatever it was. And it wasn't to get the glory. It was like, Lord, thank you, because community is important. And I know someone saying, well, yeah, community is important, but every time I turn around, I try and it doesn't work out. I will say to you, continue. Continue to pray, continue to look, and continue to try, because your voice does need to be heard. And many of you who have gone through things in your childhood, I will never ever say that it's your fault. You were a child, right? I know sometimes people they say things, and I feel it right in my heart when I hear people victimize or blame people who were children who were afraid to speak up. That's painful. That's painful. Because I know what that feels like. And it's like children sometimes, we wish we weren't afraid when we were children. We wish that cap wasn't placed on us to be seen and not heard, and that it was so strong that it silenced our voices in areas where we needed to shout from the rafters and scream out for help and cry out for help. We wish it wasn't like that, but it was. And so that was then. And so I say, even for those who have children, there's a healthier way to kind of teach your children to say, sweetheart, listen, when the company comes, I don't know, there's an easier way. Like you and mommy, maybe me and dad, saying me and daddy, your dad things aren't working out right now. Even though I know he loves us. Now, if there's something else going on where you need extra help, then you need extra help. There are some things that you can't be silent about. You need help. You need help. And in order for it to change, you've got to open up your mouth, and you've got to speak, and you have to say something. And listen here, there are times when, yes, I will admit, you may share some things with people and it can be a little unnerving and you feel vulnerable because you're really not sure if that person's going to be able to handle it, what it is that you're saying, what you're saying. They may go and tell someone else. But we forgive them. I'm like, listen, if people aren't mature enough to handle the things that I share with them, my life is kind of like an open book for whatever reason, whether I like it or not. There are times when I've been like, oh no, I'm keeping this. This is between me and the Lord. I'm going to keep it for the rest of my life. And then all of a sudden I'll be singing somewhere and I'll get a nudge. Talk about that. Open up. Talk about that. Speak about it. And in my mind, I'm like, and people have heard me say it. Oh gosh. Okay. Oh no. Okay. I'm just like, really, Lord? Now? And sometimes it's like that because there's someone who needs to hear it. Do you know that when you get a nudge to share with people, you should do it? Why? Because sometimes that person that you encounter, even if it's a complete stranger, could be right at the brink of giving up completely, of planning not to even live another day. And if you're there and you're in the sound of my voice and you're even thinking about that, I'm saying to you, don't do that. Don't give up. Don't you dare give up. We need you. We need you to live. I know it's hard sometimes. I get it. And sometimes people aren't very nice. They seem cruel and no one likes to be abandoned or rejected. But I've discovered that even when that has happened, even in my own life, that when I turn it towards God and I say, Lord, this is hard. That person is not in my life. I've got to try to figure all of this stuff out on my own or whatever it is. When I invite God in instead of push him away, because we can do that too. We can say, well, I'm going to be silent to God. I don't want to talk to God. We blame things on God sometimes that are not God's fault. I've made poor decisions in my life. I can admit that. And so there are times when we've got to invite God in. And even if it wasn't a poor decision, sometimes we trust people who don't deserve our trust. This is very true. But when that happens, don't give up. That's what I want to say to you. Don't give up.